Hello, everybody, and welcome again to our Wisdom Wednesdays webinar. We are here today with Joel Gandara. He is an entrepreneur, a business owner. He was and is a business owner, and we're really happy to have you here today, Joel. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you so much for being here with us. We also have Hiazia Mohi, our TOO from CTI, and also Gavi, our business development leader. So let's just start with some questions. Let's start actually for asking Joel, who are you?
Yeah, well, let's see. I'm a father of four. Been married for almost 23 years. I live in the United States. I was born originally in Cuba, came here on a boat when I was a kid, and grew up in poverty and built up some businesses because my number one driver was to not be poor anymore. And that worked out well, fortunately. Hard to tell in the moments because when you're in it, in the thick of it and suffering, you don't realize, you don't know what's going to happen. And now I'm happily doing whatever I want. And I get to do some pretty cool things nowadays.
So, Joel, you also have an incredible background, right? From Cuba to the US, from hustling at flea markets to building and selling multi-million dollar businesses. How was your background on that area?
How was my background? Like how did all that happen?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I used to find any way that I could to make money. And when I was a kid, it was very simple. I would take trading cards, the collector cards to school, and I'd sell them and I'd make money. And when I was in high school, I started selling chocolates. I was very uh, how could I say it? I was very systematized. I had my bedroom looked like a warehouse. I had Hershey's, M and M's. I had every chocolate. It smelled like chocolate in my bedroom, and that's what I did. And I netted in my pocket. This is back in the early to mid '90s. $30 every day. $30 a profit. It was pretty good for that age. Plus, I always worked after school every single day and weekends too. So I've been working since I was 12. And then I discovered going to garage sales. Once I drove and could have access to moving around, I go to garage sales and I'd buy stuff and take it to the flea market. And doing that, I built up, things kind of happen on accident, but you got to get yourself out there. So I found a guy selling underwear samples and I bought them, took them to the flea market, made $3,000. And then I said, this is a lot better than my $8 an hour job. And then I had to keep the job because I needed consistency. But that led to one thing after another, after another. I started importing underwear from other countries and swimwear and selling it on eBay. And then I discovered a brand out of Mexico that I was able to grow it in the US. I got to buying over $1 million a year from them and reselling it. And then I started manufacturing my own brands in Colombia. And at the end, I had something like 21 different brands of underwear and swimwear with trademarks here in the US. And I did that until about 20 months ago when I sold that company.
Congratulations on the exit.
Thank you. The exit wasn't as exciting as the buildup. Like
it never is. It never is. It's
yeah.
They would say life's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, it was definitely the journey. Plus, the money was better just building it and getting the money from it, and then the exit was cool.
So it's funny that you said that you sold chocolates and candies. When I was growing up, we had a community pool, and I used to go out there with Snicker bars and Coca Colas, put it all in a cooler, sit by there on Saturdays and Sundays, and I would sell them. Now, I always knew I'm like, I always thought, man, this is a lot of hard work. So what I did is I have two younger sisters. So I told them they could sell them, and as their payment, they could have one Coca-Cola, one Snickers bar each. And after a while, my dad had to explain to me, that's not technically legal or fair to your sisters. You have to pay them properly. So it's funny that you had that background. I used to do the same exact thing, a little entrepreneur, like, hey, we can sell 50 cents and a dollar. We'd clean up, 20, 30 bucks a day, man. That's a great Saturday for a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Kid. So
if I would have had younger siblings, I would have done the same thing and put them to work.
Let me tell you, it was a blessing in disguise. Blessing in disguise having those little girls running around. But it's cool that you did that. It's the same background.
Cool.
Joel, so let's talk about your book. Your book, 31 Days to Become a Better Man, is packed with actionable advices, And actually, for men, if someone could only commit to one of those 31 days, which lesson would you recommend and why?
Man, it's tough because I put these together. I took all the lessons that I've learned till this day. I'm still learning lessons, and I turned them into challenges. And it's like asking, who's your favorite child? I have 4 kids. I love them all. I don't know. I guess maybe let's just say if I had to pick one, I'm going to try to be smart about it, and it would be the first one. The first one is the challenge is to light your fire. And the way to do that is to figure your purpose on this planet. Why are you here? Today, we just started a new class, 28 guys in this new class. And that was the topic of the conversation this morning on Zoom. It was, have you figured out why you're here on this planet? And even though nobody's going to figure that out perfectly in one day, just the thought of, man, I'm here for a reason. And then if you start saying, here's the exercise for that day, it's to start trying to answer that question. And when you do, someone needs to, in our case, we use accountability partners, ask you why. Why is that important? Right? It's the whole Simon Sinek start with why book theory. And it's, why is it important that you want to take care of your family? Well, it's because in my childhood, and as you ask, someone asks you why 5, 6, 7 times, it gets really deep. So I'd say that I guess that's the first one, the most important one to get started with, even before we set goals and take all kinds of actions. Just let's figure out why we're on this planet. If you think, well, no, I was just born and that's it. What a boring life. I think we're all the movie star of a movie that's going to be watched one day. And if you can figure out why you're meant to be here, you're going to make for a way more exciting movie.
You know, it's awesome that you said that. I'm really happy you created a book because I've seen a deterioration in men in the last 15 years. So I'm really happy that you wrote this book to kind of help men find themselves again and just be better contributors to society and to their own families. But something that I think the struggle that a lot of successful men are going to face is a lot of success comes from hardship. I'm doing well. You've clearly done well. How do you help your kids who probably don't have the struggles and will never have your struggles still find a way to be successful?
Yeah, they've got their own struggles. So, I'll give you an idea. My 19-year-old, he's in the Army, he's a mechanic. 18-year-old's in college, pays his own college. Both bought their cars cash. I haven't given them a dollar since they were little kids. At 5 years old, all 4 of my kids were given a box of chocolates from me. And I said, this is not a gift. You will pay me back as soon as you sell this. These cost about 60 cents or whatever the cost was. And you're going to go out and sell them for $2 and you're going to make money. I had to explain it to the first kid and the rest have seen it. And
Right.
the oldest one would order pallets at a time here to the house, sell them wholesale to his brothers and sisters. So my kids have each been told no over 5,000 times and get away, leave me alone. I love it. I love every time they're rejected. Yesterday, I had to go to the shopping mall or to the grocery store. My youngest is 11. He went with me. He didn't stand around. He was outside selling. And on a good day, in 20 minutes, he'll do $60, $70. On a bad day, like yesterday, he'll do $18. Large amount of that is profit. He gets a lot of tips. So one of my sons today was at the DMV, changing. He bought a car cash, and then he sold it later after he drove it for a little while, and he had to change it. He was now 18. So now I want him off of, I don't want to be on the title. He's not on my insurance. I don't pay for anything. So he had to go figure all that out. He called me from the DMV. I was on a stage talking this just a little while ago. I couldn't be there for him. After I called him and he was all stressed out. He's at the DMV. They're telling him he's got to buy a new license plate, but the old car had a plate, all this thing. And I go, well, ask them this, this, and this. But he's there doing it. He's there suffering. He had to pay for that new license plate, $360 to an agency that handles it. And he had to go through all that. So he has to buy his own car, pay his own insurance. My 18-year-olds and up, both of them, they pay rent. The 19-year-old pays $300 a month. He's in the Army, but it's reserves. He goes away one weekend a month. And the other one pays $200 because he's only 18. My little kids know when they're 18, they will pay rent. When it's time to buy a car, they pay for it. When insurance, they pay for it. College, I don't pay for college. They don't know that I have a 529 plan with plenty of money for them there. But guess what? The 19-year-old is going to get the GI Bill, and the Army will pay his college if he wants to go to it. He's a mechanic. The second one earned a scholarship for 3/4 coverage, and he pays the rest because he works. So I have created struggles. And I'll tell you this, I'll give you the cliff notes here. My little ones may not realize it yet, although they hear it from their older brothers. But the reality is that the older ones are already thanking us and saying that life is so easy because we put them through struggles. We made them earn every single thing they do. There's no argument here about, do you take the garbage out? We pay them. It's a job. Garbage is $4 a week. You got to take it out. Plates are $20 a week. If you do all the dishes, that's $1,000 a year. So we have jobs and they all have a monetary value, and they get it from an early age. They've known you got to struggle, you got to pay, you got to earn your way, and it's worked.
it's really cool to hear you say that, because I see the exact opposite in a lot of successful households. And that's where you see like the spoiled kids, the entitlements, and you can just tell those kids, they're not going to make it unless daddy holds their hand all the way to the finish line. And I feel like with you, you've created that structure. Hell, I already see your second book coming out is How to Be a Better Parent. Because I'm telling you right now, everybody I talk to, everybody faces that challenge of how do I create that struggle that I had that helped me be successful with my kids who are eating, filet mignon every night and a side of lobster. So it's really cool that you've instilled that, especially at such a young age, and you've put that hustle in them. I can't believe an 11-year-old sitting outside of Publix, just selling chocolates outside, making. I think that's fantastic. It's
He's been
that.
kicked out of every grocery store that I've ever been at, and then he'll just wait a few minutes till the manager goes inside, and he comes right back and he does it again. The same manager has kicked him out 3 times in one day. That's life. You got to struggle.
I've been kicked out of a building or two, so I know what that struggle is like. So that's it's great that you're teaching that, but I don't want to monopolize too much of a list time. Please go ahead.
No, it's perfect and it's wonderful, and I love we're having these conversations. Joel, let's just move on a little bit more about to your book because it's something that we really, are amazed to about. So, based on that, what would you say are some key green flags that show that someone is on the right path, and what are some red flags that signal that might be holding back from themselves?
The red flags are excuses. Whenever somebody says, I couldn't do my 100 push-ups, that's the task, the physical task for today. Because every day there's a physical challenge and there's a mental challenge. Whenever they give me a reason, unless you got in a car accident and your arms got ripped off, I don't know what that reason is. Yesterday, my oldest son was in surgery and had over 3 hours under anesthesia while the procedure was being done. He's fine now. But my wife was there. She woke up at 3 a.m, went to the hospital, was there with him all day. And when she got back, she had to take our little son to practice and to a game and do all these things. She could have had 1,000 excuses. She was doing laps around the park while he practiced. She could have said, but today I got up at 3. I'm tired. So in our house, we don't make those excuses. We don't allow them. And I see that when somebody's life is not going well and you start asking them to do this challenge, you start asking them to do a little bit of exercise. Hey, call me back at this hour. And they don't do these things. They're showing you why they are in that position in life. And I think, I feel bad for people who lost their legs, who have a serious disease, all these problems. So I'm not talking about people with things that happen to them that's really out of their control. I'm talking about people where you go, man, his or her life is not in a good place. Poor person. I wonder why. Dig deeper. You can usually find that they're in the position in life that they deserve to be because they either worked really hard and that's how they got there, or they were lazy and made excuses and had victim mentality. So those are kind of the flags I look for when people have that victimhood and poor me and I can't get anything done. I wouldn't put my money on those people. I would not invest in their companies. I'm not going to invest my time in them. But when I see that they take the small action, and this is small action, I don't say, hey, you want to go open a new website? Well, let's beat Jeff Bezos tomorrow and you're going to be the new Amazon. I don't believe in that. I believe in let's set up a website. What's the first step? You got to buy the domain name. Great. Do a search, see if it's available. That's it. That's your assignment for today. Tomorrow, make sure you can get the trademark for that, or before you pull the trigger spending money, and then do a Google search, check Chat GPT, and they're doing all those little tiny steps. Those people are going to make it.
I have a very
Wonderful.
similar saying about excuses that my whole team's
Yep.
heard. I'd say 3 or 4 times a week. So I am
Be careful, we
100%.
have young audience. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So anytime I hear an excuse on one of our team meetings, I just give them one of these, and they all know exactly what that.
Everybody's got an excuse.
They all stink, and everybody's got one, and they all stink. So I don't want to hear them.
That's
So
right.
it's funny that you said that, because as soon as you said it, I watched both of their faces because they've heard it at least 3 or 4 times a week. So same page.
So I'll tell you what makes it easy for me to do that. Earlier, we were talking about children. And the reason that I have a lot of success with my children is because my wife is on board. We've been married over 23 years. She's almost 23 years. She's very tough and cancer survivor, delivered 4 kids. She was a labor and delivery nurse, high tension, high stress job. And when our son a year ago was in boot camp in basic training, a little over a year ago, he wrote a letter saying how sorry we should feel for him, basically, and all how difficult it is, and how one kid in that boot camp in the Army did something stupid. They made them all sleep outside in the bugs, and it was horrible. And he expected my wife to write him a letter saying, why don't you just quit? I think that's what he expected. Instead, my wife went to Walgreens, to the pharmacy, and printed a picture of David Goggins, former Navy SEAL. And on the side, it says, nobody cares, work harder. And she mailed him that. And she wrote in that letter, and that, by the way, it's sitting on our refrigerator because he brought it back. She wrote in that letter and said, this was your dream. We encouraged the military, but we didn't tell you to go sign up. You've been wanting every Halloween you dressed as a soldier since you were 4 years old. This is what you wanted. And now you're going to quit. Why don't you become more tough? And he said that the next letter was amazing, because he said, I had a mind shift reset. This changed everything. Thank you for this. So we could be soft on ourselves and on each other, and give yourself grace. You worked hard. Hey, you tried. That doesn't get us anywhere.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
I love it.
Joel, let's talk about, you start as a very young entrepreneur, right? So, what would you say is the biggest lesson from those early days that still applies to business and life today?
Yeah. So I had a day where I was selling these cards, and I was in fourth grade. I was 10 years old, and I didn't know much about business. I just knew that, okay, I had these cards. I took them to school and everybody wanted to buy them. I was selling them for 10 cents each because it cost me about 5 cents. And I had a really neat card, and I showed it, and three of my friends stood around me and all said, I'll take it for 10 cents. And then I said, wow, what do you do when three people want something? I don't know what you're supposed to do. Do you pick a friend? And then I said, it just occurred to me, and I went with it. I said, you know what, guys, it's 50 cents. And then two said, I got 50 cents, and one walked away. And then I said, oh boy, that's the day I learned about supply and demand. And I said, you know what, it's $1. And one kid walked away, and the other one said, I got $1, and he paid me $1. So what I realize is we each have something that the other wants. In my case, I wanted enough money to buy myself my own toys because my parents wouldn't buy me toys. We didn't have enough money. And I wanted to buy donuts after school. That was my dream, to be able to buy a donut after school. My parents never gave me money for that. They gave me rice, beans, meat, usually chicken because it's cheaper. And that was my lunch every day. And all the American kids bought their lunches, and they got to buy snacks. So that made me realize, if you have something that people want, you're going to do pretty well. So I did not build a business around my passions. I built a business that people wanted the product, and I can get it at a good price and give it to them at a good price too. Now, today, I run a business which is my absolute passion because I can. So now I get the best of all worlds. But I think it's sometimes a mistake to just pursue your passion. Well, I don't know. My passion was playing baseball. I played up until my first year in college. If I would have pursued that, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would have made the right choices. I just pursued giving the market what they wanted, and in return, I'll get what I wanted. And I got to build something because of that.
So help me understand. Your passion wasn't selling male underwear?
It was horrible. I hated every minute of it, but I loved making money. Imagine, I went to all the photo shoots. I hated it.
Oh, you're a better man than I am, and that's why you are where you are today. You put up with some tough stuff.
Now, had I chosen, it would have been women's underwear, and then I would have probably made stupid business decisions, because I would have said, that model costs double, but she's beautiful. I want to meet her. And I would have hired her, and I would have done stupid. Oh, we should have a party with all the models. That'd be a smart decision. That would have been stupid. So instead, I didn't want anything to do with these models or the business. I just wanted to make money and leave. And it worked out pretty well.
Love it. Love it.
Joel, so you have invested a lot in your personal grow and also life. So what's one piece of coaching that you received that completely changed your mindset?
Mm. Again, it's hard to pick just one thing. I don't have, I mean, I've had plenty of coaches. My current coach is a former Navy SEAL commander named Jocko Willink. And I landed that because one of the 14 companies I bought was called Jocko, and Jocko.com came with it. So I was able to trade it to him. I didn't ask for much. I said, I want to work out with you. I want to visit you in San Diego, and I want you to coach me for a few calls. And if you like me, keep coaching me. So we keep scheduling calls. So I haven't bothered him enough yet. And I gave him Jocko.com. Sometimes advice is amazing because it's like, wow, I wasn't thinking that. Let me now go that route. And as you get a little bit better over time, the advice sometimes is really just like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Does this make sense to you? So that's where I'm at now, where I look for advice. I don't know that anybody's just going to blow my mind with a concept I've never considered. It's usually like, hey, here's what I'm thinking of doing. What do you think? So that's really what I search for now. I'm sure maybe one day someone will blow my mind with something new, but I think I've read so much. I've read maybe 400 or 500 books on business and self improvement, that I'm really, in any future coaching that I ever receive, I think it's going to be like, am I crazy here? Do I need to see it a different way? Um, yeah, so that's kind of been my ride with coaching over the last few years as a recipient of it.
Do you feel like a lot of times you'll ask questions because you have an idea that you need maybe like a, what do they call, like a red team? Somebody knows nothing about it just to poke holes into your idea to see if it still holds up?
Yeah, I like that. I like criticism. I like shoot
Yeah.
down my idea. And sometimes when I coach people, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to shoot this down. I want to see you defend this argument. I'm going to tell you everything that I think could go wrong. Or I'll ask questions. What could go wrong? What if this were to happen? What if clients were to start doing this and now they have to kind of think it through?
When I managed a sales team, it was really similar. I would say, all right, I'm going to be the client. I want you to sell me this product. And I'm going to give you every objection that I can think of. And what they realized was role playing with me was a million times harder than selling the deal because they might have one or two and I gave them 30. So I think I think you're right, because a lot of times what people when you're so involved in your own circle, you'll miss glaring issues because you're so involved. And somebody coming in from 10,000 feet can be like, hey, you got a problem here, you got a problem here, you got a problem here. So I think that's great advice, is especially when you are where you are in your career. You probably don't need anybody to give you a hand up anywhere. It's more of a slight course correction.
Yeah,
I
that's
heard.
fair. First
I
person
think
I ever coached was a dog breeder in Texas. I know nothing about dogs. Up until that time, I never even had a dog. I have one now. He says I helped him a tremendous deal. And so it's good to have somebody, like you said, with a different perspective, different industry. I don't know anything about too much about dogs, and it doesn't matter, because if I get caught in the weeds like all other dog breeders, then I might not be thinking from a new perspective. And that's what I like to bring. And also, when I coach personally, I'm not a tactician. I don't tell them, hey, do this and push this button and make this phone call. I don't know. You know your industry. You're probably going to know it way better than I ever will. But I can ask some questions that might make you think deeper, because I think the answers are within us. We just need to be asked the right questions to do the mental work to get there, and then be able to have that idea come from the person, because I think they're going to execute a lot stronger when they come up with it.
So with that being said, so would you say it doesn't matter what the industry is, business is still business?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. People are people. Businesses are businesses. Um, Negative thinking is negative thinking, no matter what industry you're in. Small mindedness, laziness, excuse making. Those are the things I talk about, and that transfers from one industry to the other.
Awesome. Joel, what is a piece of advice that people don't want to hear, but they absolutely need to hear?
Oh, well, if somebody, I'll tell you an example of two friends of mine who over the last year got themselves out of shape. And one of them I train jujitsu with. So I see him 3, 4, 5 times a week, and I see him in the locker room, and he's a real good friend of mine. He's been through my program. He's in my men's group, the Brotherhood. So it's not just a friend like, hi, how you doing? No, it's way deeper than that. So both of these guys, but especially the one that I see all the time in jujitsu, they let themselves get overweight. So I would look at him in the locker room and say, can you even see your feet with that stomach? Look how fat you're getting, dude. I mean, that's not healthy. See, I'm not there to make people feel good. I don't care about that. I want them to be healthy, and I want them to be the best version of themselves. They could go have their weak friends go tell them, no, man, you look good, and lie to them. This is why I don't coach women at all. I will not coach a woman. I only coach men, because I challenge them and I push them really hard. And then I don't know that I have any cases where they're mad at me after. Because once that guy in the locker room at 52 years old had this big belly, I could see all 6 of his abs now. And he says that push made him hire another guy in our men's program who runs a nutrition program that in 90 days, everybody gets ripped abs just by eating a little bit different. That's all it is. So he did that, and he still thanks me all the time. He wrote me 2 days ago, and I'll probably see him tonight at jiu-jitsu, but he still says, dude, you don't know how much I appreciate it. Nobody said a word to me. You kept telling me I look fat, and that bothered me so much. I went and did the work. Nobody wants to hear when they're doing things wrong. Even if that advice, that push might get them to a better place, they don't want to hear it.
That's a fact. There's nothing like being told you're fat by one of your friends to help you lose some weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, you're right. I mean, now that you're actually talking about why you wouldn't coach women, I wanted to ask you, what makes your book different? Now we know, but what makes your book different from other self-improvement books? Who do you think will benefit from it most? And the most important question to you is, what book will, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now? Sorry, I think I lost connection. So the question was, so why your book makes different from other self-improvement books? Uh, um, what book would you suggest from you? Like, what would be a book that you will actually tell people to go and read? And then, yeah, just go ahead with those questions.
Yeah. So what I get at the end of every class, and last Friday we finished a class. Today we started a new one. More than 2 dozen men in each class. What I hear from them is I've read a lot of books on self improvement, but they're just books. You read it and then you put it away, and then maybe you'll do one thing, maybe you won't, but you're just sitting there reading it or listening to it. Mine is very different. You're going to read 3 to 5 minutes a day. That's it. And then you got to do an activity, a physical activity for the day, which I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. And then you're going to do a mental activity for the day. You're going to do exactly that. And then I'm going to make sure you do it because I put you in a group of 3 men that are accountability partners. So a class of 24 has 8 teams of 3 guys each, and they hold each other accountable. So what happens at the end of 31 days where you've been challenged nonstop? You're going to do things that you've never done before. That's very different from the average book. Yeah, I've sold a few thousand copies of my book. I'm sure it didn't have much of an effect, but the 500 plus men that have done the program with me, I promise you, they all say the same thing. This was amazing. I've never felt this level of brotherhood since I was in sports teams, the military, things like that. And also the accountability was next level. So that's what's different. There's actual accountability built around the program. And one of the books is up there. I've read a lot of books. Up there is one of my favorites by Jocko Willink. It's Extreme Ownership. The audio is phenomenal. The written one is good too. And that's a great book because it says that you have to own. You can praise yourself for the good things you do, great, but you have to own the mistakes that you make. You cannot blame others because when you do, you can never learn. How am I going to learn if I don't know, you and I turn a corner and we bump into each other, right? And we both drop all our stuff. If I say, well, it was her fault, I will never take a lesson from that. I will never learn. If I say, I bumped into you, I'm sorry, that was my fault. I should have probably taken a step over and slowed down before I hit the corner. It probably won't happen to me again, or I'll start getting better at finding it. So take that at work, at home, with your spouse, with your kids, with everything, and have extreme ownership. You own the good and the bad that happens in your life, and you take control.
Yeah, and I think it goes even further too when you go into leadership. That's as a person, just to take your ownership. And one of the challenges that a lot of leaders face is you get to not only do that, but you have to pass on the successes and absorb all of the failures as a leader, and that I think is one of the toughest challenges for especially like a top producer to pivot from a contributor role to a leadership role is being able to pass on successes and absorb blame. So it's and I love that. Jocko's great. He gets you so hyped. If you like listen to him and you don't want to run through a wall when you're done, like there's something wrong. We check your pulse. So he's great with that stuff. Him, and so when you say that, it makes me trigger to a lot of things that got me going. And then it goes, and then you see it not in others. And so like you write this book, you have your classes. When you see like they just don't have it, whatever it is, you've got a fork in the road at that point, right? It's either you double down and invest harder, or you cut your losses and move on. So with what you do in your class, how do you do that?
Yeah, well, everybody carries their own baggage. There's 24 guys. The current class, I think, is 28. I can't be on top of every single one of them. It's limited touch points. We have a weekly Zoom call and we have a WhatsApp where we chat every day. If one guy's not carrying it, I might message him once. I might say something to him in the class. I might message him privately. And I'm not going to be on there. I'm not there to rah. Come on, you could do it. After he's told me 20 times he's not going to do it, I'm not going to waste my effort. I personally like to cheer on winners and push them harder because you could see it. There is that it. I honestly don't know how to describe it yet. Maybe one day I'll get to that. But you could talk to somebody and immediately go this, and they could be young. You can say, I want to put my money behind this person. Do they need an investment in their company? What could I do for them? Because they look like they're going somewhere and I want to invest in them. Yeah, and people, hey, everybody should get a fair shot, but not everybody utilizes it the same way.
Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting book if somebody ever figures out how to write it. What is it?
Yeah,
Because you know it when you see it, but you can't describe it. Whatever it is, they have it. I'm with you on that.
yeah.
Joel, before we move on to questions that Gabby has, because I know you already have some questions, Gabby, from a lot of platforms. So, if you could challenge the audience, Joel, to take one action right after this webinar to improve their lives, what would it be?
Well, if you want to take, I, the key word is action. And I don't know what everybody's action is, because somebody needs to make a phone call. Somebody needs to apologize to somebody. Somebody needs to go register a website that they've been thinking about doing for a long time. Everybody's got a different action. So take an action. You know what it is. And some people have 1,000 ideas in their head, but they've never sat down and done the exercise. Go get out a Google Sheet and start listing things. I want to start this business. Okay, what are the expenses? How much do you think you could sell? Where could you set it up? How, start planning this out, get it out of your head and put it down on paper. But regardless of what that specific action is for that individual, I know this sounds funny, but the action is probably go down and do 20 push-ups, because I bet you that's going to get your blood pumping, and it's going to send a signal to your brain of, I thought of doing something and I'm going to do it right now. I started my meeting this morning with 28 guys on that call. And I said, guys, you got 100 push-ups to do today. Let's do 20 right now. And on a big Zoom with 28 people plus me, we all went down, everybody disappeared for a minute, and we all did 20 push-ups. So I really believe in that.
I like your 20 push-ups. Mine's always before you get started, clean your workspace.
That's a good one.
Man, it makes a huge difference. I learned that in college. Whenever I was, my space was a little off, my brain didn't work properly. So I make sure like my bed's made, my table's all set up, everything looks the way I want it to look. So when you sit down, you're like, okay, I'm relaxed, I can get to work. And then the other one is, I love your push-up idea. I love hitting the gym in the middle of the day. I feel like it clears your whole head out. You're able to recharge and go again. So huge point. I love
And
it.
if you can't go to the gym, you can't afford it, you don't have access to one, whatever the reason is, the ground is always here. And the ground allows you to do everything. Sit-ups, push-ups, air squats, planks. You can always stop in the middle of a day in the clothes you're wearing and do whatever you got to do for 30 seconds. I know you might think, well, 30 seconds. Do push-ups as fast as you can for 30 seconds. Let me know if that's a workout or not.
Your heart rate will be $160, I promise you.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Joel. Thank you so much. Now Gabby, let's move on with all these questions that we have.
We have very interesting questions. Okay, so what's the biggest misconception men have about personal growth and success?
Maybe that it's that it takes some secret power, some special ability. That guy can do it. He must have some secret. I really believe it's just taking a little bit of action. I coach CEOs right now, and who are very successful, and they don't have superpowers. A lot of them, there's nothing that I don't think the average guy can do. You just have to do it. That guy or that girl, I don't coach girls, but that CEO has worked every single day for 15, 20 straight years and not taken a day off. Whether that's good or bad, if that's what you want to accomplish, you want to get to that level, you got to do that. So you can't sit around, complain, and think, well, that guy did it. Who knows who he knows, what family members. It's usually not the case. There's not that many passed on wealth in this country, in the United States, generationally, because a lot of it gets blown. So that person probably just worked really hard, made good connections, established relationships, thought outside the box. So I think that's doable for most people. Maybe not all, but a lot of people can do it if you just start seeing things differently. I read a book years ago, The Secret, and it changed my life, by Rhonda Burns. And it got me to start thinking differently. I used to think, how did that guy get there? How come I can't do it? And then that started shifting my way of thinking.
Thank you. Next one. You emphasize surrounding yourself with successful people. How do you identify and build a strong positive network?
How do I build a strong positive network?
How do you identify and build a strong positive network?
Okay. So I have over 100 men who are members of my brotherhood, a couple in Europe, Canada, almost all of them in the US. That's a very good network of mine. Those guys finished my 31-day course, and then I invited them personally, one by one, to join the brotherhood. Most people who take my class, I do not invite. because that's my personal network. Those are guys I can reach out to. Give you an example. One of the guys, his son died, and 6 of us jumped on an airplane and went to the funeral. That's the type of bonds that we have and how we build it. And we build that by helping each other out, being there for each other when the other one needs it. So I identify those guys with the characteristics that I see during my 31-day course, where I go, I like how that guy thinks. I like what he just shared. I like how he helped someone, right? He wasn't here complaining all day about his own thing. He was pushing hard to get to the next level. That's how I identify the people I want in my life. That's how 23 years ago I chose my wife. That's how all my friends in my life are fantastic people. I don't have anyone right now that I need to cut out of my life. Some people are number ones, some are twos, some are threes, and some are fours. Ones, they'll go help me hide a dead body in the desert if I called them right now. Twos are real good friends. And then 3, it goes down from there. 4 are acquaintances. There's no bad guys in there. These are the people I want in my life because they've shown me in good and bad that they're good people to be around, that they're getting after it, that they're always improving. They're not going to bring me down with bad habits. That's how I identify. And that's how I build the relationships. If someone's in a number 4 spot, I just met them, I want them to become at least a number 3. I work toward that. I message them. I invite them to dinner at my house. We do things to get each other, or I do, to get them into the spot that I want in my life.
I have a personal question. How often do you do this 31-day challenge? Or
About
like,
every 5 to 6 weeks, I start a new one. So last Friday we finished one, and today is Wednesday recording this, 5 days later. So when the next class ends, at most I'll take a week off, week and a half. But usually, I always start on a Wednesday. It always finishes on a Friday. So I'll do, I don't know, 10 a year.
but it's like new people or some of
New
them
people.
repeat?
New people. Although we do get some people who repeat because they say, I didn't get it all done right. I have some unfinished business.
Great.
That's awesome.
Okay. What daily habits or routines have had the most significant impact on your success?
Yeah. Moving. I move a lot physically. I train jujitsu. I hike. I jog. I do hot yoga. So moving, getting in the sun. I love the sun. I eat well. So I don't eat it too early in the morning. And I also don't eat late at night. Those are habits that have helped me sleep better. And sleep being better means you're going to perform better. You're going to do everything better. Really, it's taking care of my body. I don't eat processed foods, not very much. I don't eat much sugar. I eat healthy. I eat a lot of meat. So anyway, those are habits that I think may sound simple, just physical things. I don't have like a scheduled time to meditate, a scheduled time to exercise. I have a gym downstairs. My 3-car garage is a gym. I do jujitsu there. I have everything. I've got a cold plunge, hot tub, sauna, steam room, all in my house. So I do all of these things on a regular basis. I don't have a scheduled time. Every day is different for me, and I like the excitement. It's part of my ADHD. If I had an exact schedule, I'd get very bored. So I look for pockets in my calendar and I go, I got an hour between calls. I can go do this. Or I know every night I can go train jujitsu at my academy. So, I keep it interesting. I keep it different. It's interesting for me, but it's all healthy habits.
Very interesting. Aleja, we have time because I have 3 more questions. Yeah.
Yes, yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. What's one mistake you made early on that was a valuable lesson?
Ah, um, so I was selling men's apparel and things were going really good. And I was making money and more money than I ever thought possible. Here's an example. What I was making in a year was close to what my parents had earned in 20 years combined, right? And I was making that every year. So I was doing really well. So then guess what happened? I started thinking that it was just me. I'm just amazing. And I could go do anything. I could go get into any business and I'm going to turn it around. What I didn't realize is the reason I kept growing is because I was dialed in. I had a niche and I just kept buying competitors. I bought 14 companies and I just kept adding them in and it just kept building my vertical. I was now owning brands. I was doing wholesale distribution of my brands. I was going direct to consumer with my brands. Everything made perfect sense in that way. But then I go, no, you know what I want to do? I want to get into selling women's apparel. You know what I want to do? I want to open a cleaning company. I got into these different things. And every time you just pick the one, it was like another $500,000 lost. So that's because I got derailed and I knew nothing about those industries. So for me, what makes the most sense, if I have a dollar and I can invest it in what I already know how to do and I can keep improving and get more market space. That makes more sense to me than saying, oh, let me take my dollar and throw it over there into something that I know nothing about. So I think that was more of a lesson in ego and realizing that I know this much. Let me stick to this much and just see if little by little I can grow it, not try to grow it externally in something I know nothing about.
I like that.
Good one. How do you balance ambition and gratitude, staying hungry for more while appreciating what you have?
Okay. So you know that there's something very beautiful that's done. It's a vision board, right? You could cut out of a magazine or go on the internet and find beautiful pictures of things that you want in your life in the future, and you put it over here. I think that's beautiful. But there is one problem for me. If I did that, I would look at those things and just say, well, I don't have those things in my life today because those are visions for the future. And that could give me the ambition that you mentioned to push forward and do it. The only problem is it sucks my gratitude away. So I currently don't have a vision board, but I'm looking right here at my monitor right now, and I can see, hey, there it is. I can see a picture of the house I was born in Cuba. And you can imagine what that looks like. It doesn't look good. It's third world poverty. It's very bad. So that brings me total gratitude. And by the way, if you can see the shirt back there, that's what I had on the boat when I came here. I see that every single day. So you want to talk about gratitude? I am the most grateful person in the world. I was on a stage earlier today talking, and they did the Pledge of Allegiance before. And these were adults. It wasn't a school. They did the Pledge of Allegiance, or they did a prayer, and then they did the Pledge of Allegiance, and then they sang "God Bless America." And no one in that room probably felt all of that as much as I do, because I'm a huge patriot of this country because of all the opportunities that it's given me. And the reason I can appreciate it so much is because I know where I came from and I know the risk that it took to get here. And I know how bad life was, and what it would be today would be horrible. So for me, that's how I balance that motivation and drive to get ahead. And let me slow down a little bit. Let me be grateful for what I do have.
Hmm.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. See, I like
I
that because I
admire
think the
you.
difference between you and a lot of people is people would use a vision board to get motivated, but motivation dies out, discipline stays. And I think you're more disciplined than you are motivated because I think motivated is just who you are. And I think
Sure.
that's why you might not need a vision board. You're like, oh, cool, a G wagon. I'll just go get one of those. It's not a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot. I think for you, like the things that would motivate you now. And again, I don't know you, but I'm just from our conversation. Is probably going to be being able to spend time with your grandkids in the next 10 years when they start showing up.
Yeah, you do know me then, because I don't care about material things at all. I don't own a watch. I can go buy whatever watch is out there. I don't own a Lamborghini. I can go buy a bunch of Lamborghinis. I don't want any of that. I just want family, friends, health. Yeah, that's what I care about.
I love it. And especially when you say that you never forget like where you came from or where you start. And our last question, sadly. How do you stay driven and ambitious without burning out?
Yeah, so that's not a problem anymore. I did burn out, not to the point where I couldn't function, but I used to wake up at 6 in the morning, leave by 7 and be in my office by 7:30, let's call it. And I'd be there till 6 or 7 p.m. And I did that for years. And when I was at home, I would be working, right? When I'd get home. And in the weekends, I'd be working. I did that a lot. I guess not, again, not to the point where I burned out and couldn't function anymore, but I was tired and I was stressed. And I probably took years out of my life, but I had to do that. I had to get out of poverty. And I'm talking before I had my office, before I was working. I worked in radio for 3.5 years in California. And I did that from 19 until 22. And I worked a lot, like 80 hours a week. I mean, I just burned myself out, but I had no other choice. And now it's the opposite. I don't burn myself out. I learned a lot of things in the process of building my business, and it was to have the right people around me who could be leaders and train them to be leaders so they can make decisions. Don't come to me with everything. In the beginning, yes, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to guide you through, what do you think we should do? Give me some thoughts. And then give me what you got. And if I think that's a great idea, I'm going to go, that's a really good idea. Give it a shot. Let's see what happens. The pressure's off. If we lose $1,000 because you made a mistake, I'm not mad. Let's just learn from it. So if I could have people around me who could do things like that, the pressure gets off of me and I can focus on the things I want to focus on. So now my life is a lot more like that second half. There's no pressure like it is. I guess the only problem would be to find ambition and drive, because I'm comfortable and I'm doing what I want to be doing. But I have created that by setting goals that are kind of a stretch. Like, I want that in that organization. I told you I have 100 men that I've been personally invited. It's over 100. I want by the end of 2025 to have 150 men. It's a dilemma because I can't offer a lot of men membership because I don't want to water down the quality of the men, but I want to grow it. So there, that gives me enough drive because I know myself. I need enough drive like that to keep me pushing to the next thing.
I can honestly say this has been a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's
Likewise.
Totally.
it's I wish
Gabby.
more people had that mentality because I
Mm.
feel our country and our everybody's situation would be better. When you talked about ownership, you talked about it's just owning up to yourself. It's just being the best version of yourself, taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, taking care of your friends. I think there's a lot of people. I think you said the word victim. They want to blame everybody else for why they're not where they are instead of just looking in the mirror, kind of like with the secret, right? And the secret's you, right? And when you look at that, I wish more people would take this to heart and not be so offended by the fact that they might just have to be better. And it's okay that you're not the best version of yourself today. It's realizing it and getting there and doing the things today, like cleaning your room, doing your push-ups, eating better. Don't eat McDonald's every day. It's a treat. It's not a daily thing. Doing stuff like that will make you better. Spending time with your kids, spending time with your family. Don't disrespect your mother, which is the worst thing. You do stuff like that, and then you'll see. I think you see society as a whole would change if more people thought the way you thought. And I can only hope that your book and your enterprise grows into more lives being affected and more people becoming better. So I
Well, you know
appreciate
what?
everything you've done, and I like it a lot.
You know what's a good sign that maybe I'm doing something right is that I get a lot of women who reach out to me on Instagram and they say, "It sounds like you're producing some really good men. Hey, I'm single. I'm this age. I'm looking for this. So one day we'll have a dating service because a lot of women want to meet these guys who are really working hard to become the best version of themselves."
That's
Now you're
wonderful,
on to
Joel. And
something.
just last one question. Is any other book coming soon from you?
Yeah, I'm working on a second one because when I came up with
Awesome.
31 habits to
Mhm.
do in each day, I really had a lot more. I didn't have quite 62, but I had, I don't know, 50 of them. So I've already started on a second book. I'm not pressuring myself when to come out with it. The
Okay.
other one that I'm working on, and I have maybe a third of it done, is a children's version or a teenager version of what I'm doing.
Nice.
And this is for boys. And it's things like go in the middle of a mall and yell really loud so you realize that no one cares. Who cares what people think about you? Things like that. Go up to a girl and tell her you like the color of her glasses or her nails or whatever. Things like that to make them uncomfortable, but get over it. And we'll see. I'm still working on those little by little.
That is wonderful, Joel. And I mean, I'm sure please, once you release that, even though it's not for women, maybe for men, maybe women in the future, we don't know.
We do
But
have a
thank you
women's
so much.
program. I just don't run it.
Yeah.
My wife runs an amazing
Oh,
women's program
perfect.
that changes lives. It's the
Yeah.
same website. It's 31dailychallenges.com. It's got a men's sign up and a women's sign up.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And everybody, thank you so much for watching. We're very excited for this webinar. Joel, thanks so much for your time. Gabby, thank you for the question. See, as always, thank you for your input. It was a pleasure to have you here, Joel. And we really are looking for your books. And obviously, I'll just send everybody to talk to you and get to know your website and on LinkedIn. Thank you again. And thank you, guys. We'll see you
Thank you.
the next time for our next webinar.
You will.
Thank
Bye,
you, guys.
guys.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.